Fame is a double-edged sword that can elevate ordinary people to extraordinary heights, but it can also amplify their falls to devastating lows. For celebrities, the journey from red carpets to prison cells represents more than just personal failure. It's a complete destruction of carefully crafted public personas, multi-million-dollar empires, and decades of hard work. The following stories reveal how quickly fortune can turn to misfortune, and how prison bars can permanently close the door on even the most successful careers. 1. Mike Tyson, the fallen champion. Mike Tyson was the youngest heavyweight champion in history, a fearsome boxer who struck terror into opponents' hearts with his devastating knockout power. At 20 years old, he held the world in his fists and seemed unstoppable in the ring. However, in 1992, his life took a dramatic turn when he was convicted of raping Desiree Washington and sentenced to 6 years in prison. After serving 3 years at the Indiana Youth Center, he returned as a changed man. Prison deepened his anger and instability, transforming the already volatile fighter into someone even more unpredictable. Upon his release, Tyson never managed to reclaim his former glory. He suffered devastating losses, including the shocking defeat to Buster Douglas that had already begun his downward spiral before imprisonment. His behavior became increasingly erratic, from biting Evander Holyfield's ear during their infamous bout to numerous public scandals that overshadowed his athletic achievements. The man who once ruled the heavyweight division became better known for his controversies than his boxing prowess, proving that some falls from grace are too steep to climb back from. 2. Martha Stewart, America's homemaking queen. Martha Stewart built a multimedia empire worth hundreds of millions of dollars by perfecting the art of domestic elegance. Her magazines, television shows, and product lines made her the undisputed queen of American homemaking, teaching millions how to create the perfect lifestyle. However, in 2004, her carefully constructed world crumbled when she was convicted of insider trading related to clone stock sales. 5 months in federal prison and 5 months of home confinement destroyed the reputation she had spent decades building. Although she attempted a comeback after her release, her brand never fully recovered the trust of consumers who had once viewed her as the epitome of integrity and sophistication. Television shows were canceled, advertising contracts were terminated, and Stewart Media lost millions in value. While Martha managed to rebuild parts of her empire, she never regained her status as America's unquestioned domestic goddess, forever marked by her time behind bars. 3. Wesley Snipes, Hollywood action star. Wesley Snipes dominated the action movie scene throughout the 1990s, starring in blockbuster franchises like Blade and earning tens of millions per film. His martial arts skills and charismatic screen presence made him one of Hollywood's most bankable stars. However, his refusal to pay taxes on $17 million in earnings led to his conviction and 3-year prison sentence in 2010. Incarceration completely derailed his Hollywood career at its peak. After his release in 2013, Snipes found that major studios had moved on without him. The projects offered to him were primarily straight-to-video releases with budgets and fees that were fractions of his former earnings. From an A-list star commanding 8-figure salaries, he became a B-movie actor struggling to find meaningful roles. His time in prison had effectively erased 2 decades of career building, demonstrating how quickly Hollywood can forget even its biggest stars. 4. Phil Spector, The Wall of Sound. Genius, Phil Spector revolutionized music production with his innovative wall of sound technique, working with legendary acts including the Beatles, the Ronettes, and Ike and Tina Turner. His production work on albums like Let It Be cemented his place in music history as one of the most influential figures in popular music. However, his eccentric behavior and increasingly erratic personality eventually led to tragedy. In 2009, Spector was convicted of murdering actress Lana Clarkson in his California mansion and sentenced to 19 years to life in prison. The genius producer, who had created some of music's most memorable moments, died behind bars in 2021 from COVID-19 complications, having spent his final 12 years in confinement. His musical legacy, while undeniable, was forever overshadowed by his criminal conviction, proving that even the most brilliant artistic achievements cannot escape the shadow of violent crime. 5. Aaron Hernandez, NFL's tragic end. Aaron Hernandez seemed to have everything an athlete could dream of: talent, youth, and a $40 million contract with the New England Patriots. The tight end was considered one of the NFL's rising stars, with the potential for a Hall of Fame career. However, his involvement in multiple violent crimes, including the murder of Odin Lloyd, destroyed everything he had worked for. In 2015, Hernandez was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. The transition from NFL stardom to life behind bars proved unbearable for the young athlete. In 2017, at just 27 years old, Hernandez hanged himself in his prison cell. Post-mortem examination revealed severe chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, likely caused by repeated head injuries during his football career, adding another layer of tragedy to an already devastating story. 6. Lauryn Hill, hip-hop's lost genius. Lauryn Hill was one of the most talented artists of her generation, whose solo album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, redefined hip-hop and R&B while earning her 5 Grammy Awards. Her blend of rap, singing, and conscious lyrics influenced countless artists and established her as a voice for a generation. However, her refusal to pay taxes on approximately $1.8 million in earnings led to a 3-month prison sentence in 2013. While her incarceration was relatively brief, it represented the culmination of years of self-destructive behavior and mental health struggles. Hill had already begun withdrawing from the public eye, canceling concerts, arriving hours late to performances, and alienating fans with erratic behavior. Prison became the final breaking point that pushed her into complete reclusiveness. She virtually stopped performing and recording, effectively ending one of the most promising careers in music history and depriving the world of her extraordinary talent. 7. T.I., the Fallen Trap King. Clifford T.I. Harris Jr. was a pioneer of trap music and a successful actor who helped define Southern hip-hop in the 2000s. His albums consistently topped charts, and his crossover appeal made him one of rap's most commercially successful artists. However, his 2007 arrest for illegal weapons possession resulted in a year-long prison sentence that marked the beginning of his career's decline. Although T.I. initially tried to use his prison experience for positive community outreach and education, his reputation never fully recovered. Subsequent arrests for drug possession and other legal troubles further damaged his standing in the industry. From being the self-proclaimed King of the South, he became a cautionary tale about the dangers of living on the edge of the law, with each legal setback diminishing his relevance in the rapidly evolving hip-hop landscape. 8. Bobby Brown, Whitney's troubled husband. Bobby Brown was a major force in the New Jack Swing movement of the late 1980s and early 1990s, with hits like My Prerogative, establishing him as a solo star after leaving New Edition. However, his marriage to Whitney Houston became a very public descent into drug addiction and legal troubles. Multiple arrests for drug possession culminated in a 2-month prison sentence in 2012. His incarceration and the surrounding circumstances destroyed what remained of his musical career. After Houston's death from accidental drowning, complicated by drug intoxication, Brown became a symbol of the destructive power of addiction. His public appearances became more about his fall from grace than his former musical achievements, and his career effectively ended as he struggled with the personal and professional consequences of his choices. 9. Lindsay Lohan, Hollywood's cautionary tale. Lindsay Lohan began her career as a promising young actress with successful films like Mean Girls and The Parent Trap. Her natural charisma and acting ability suggested a bright future in Hollywood. However, drug and alcohol addiction derailed her career through multiple arrests, court appearances, and brief jail sentences throughout the 2000s and 2010s. While Lohan technically never served extended prison time, her constant legal troubles and erratic behavior transformed her from a rising star into tabloid fodder. Hollywood studios became reluctant to hire her due to insurance issues and reliability concerns. Eventually, she relocated to Europe in an attempt to rebuild her career away from the American media spotlight, but her reputation as a troubled starlet proved difficult to escape. 10. Ja Rule, from chart topper to fraud. Jeffrey Ja Rule Atkins was one of the most popular rappers of the early 2000s. With numerous hit singles and successful collaborations with artists like Christina Aguilera and Jennifer Lopez. His melodic rap style dominated radio and MTV, making him one of hip-hop's biggest stars. However, in 2011, he received a 2-year prison sentence for tax evasion and illegal weapons possession. After his release, Ja Rule's attempts at a comeback were overshadowed by the 2017 Fyre Festival debacle. The luxury music festival he co-organized with fraudster Billy McFarland became a disaster that left thousands of attendees stranded in the Bahamas with inadequate food, shelter, and entertainment. The incident transformed Ja Rule from a former chart topper into a symbol of fraud and incompetence, effectively ending any hope of career rehabilitation. 11. Conrad Black. Media mogul's empire crumbles. Conrad Black was one of the world's most powerful media magnates, controlling Hollinger International, which owned the Chicago Sun-Times, London's Daily Telegraph, and hundreds of other publications. Worldwide, the British lord and Canadian billionaire lived luxuriously, hosting elaborate parties at his Toronto mansion and wielding enormous influence in political and media circles. In 2007, an American court convicted him of fraud and obstruction of justice involving $60 million, resulting in a 6.5-year prison sentence. During his time at Coleman Federal Prison, Black lost not only his freedom, but his entire media empire. Hollinger collapsed and his personal wealth evaporated in legal fees and fines. After his release in 2012, the 68-year-old Black attempted to rebuild through writing books and articles, but he never regained his status as a media titan, transforming from a billionaire mogul into a retiree living modestly. 12. Rod Blagojevich, the governor who tried to sell Obama's Senate seat. Rod Blagojevich was the governor of Illinois with presidential ambitions, a charismatic Democrat from working-class Chicago who embodied the American dream. Many saw him as a rising star in national politics with the potential to reach the highest levels of government. However, in 2008, he was arrested for attempting to sell Barack Obama's vacant Senate seat after Obama's presidential election. FBI wiretapping recordings revealed Blagojevich cynically negotiating the appointment, famously declaring, "This thing is golden, and I'm not giving it up for nothing." In 2011, he was convicted of corruption and sentenced to 14 years in federal prison. At a Colorado federal facility, the former governor worked in the kitchen, earning $8.40 per month. Donald Trump commuted his sentence in 2020 after 8 years of imprisonment, but Blagojevich's political career was permanently over. He now hosts a podcast and attempts to monetize his scandalous reputation. 13. Felicity Huffman, Desperate Housewives college scam. Felicity Huffman was one of Hollywood's most respected actresses, starring in Desperate Housewives and earning an Oscar nomination for Trans America. Married to actor William H. Macy, she appeared to be a model of family values and professional integrity. However, in 2019, she was arrested in Operation Varsity Blues, the largest college admission scandal in U.S. history. Huffman paid $15,000 to fraudster Rick Singer to boost her daughter's SAT scores by 400 points through cheating. She was sentenced to 14 days at Dublin Federal Prison. Though brief, her incarceration caused enormous reputational damage. Netflix canceled her projects and advertising campaigns ceased. Huffman became a symbol of wealthy elite privilege, willing to break the law for their children's advantage, and her career has yet to fully recover from the scandal. 14. Anna Delvey, Anna Sorokin, the fake German heiress. Anna Sorokin, known as Anna Delvey, created the perfect persona of a wealthy German heiress in New York City's elite social scene. From 2013 to 2017, she lived in luxury hotels, attended exclusive parties, and planned to open the Anna Delvey Foundation Art Club. In reality, she was a 26-year-old truck driver's daughter from Russia who defrauded banks, hotels, and friends of over $200,000. In 2019, she was convicted of theft and fraud, sentenced to 4 to 12 years in prison. Even while incarcerated at Rikers Island, Sorokin continued her performance, giving interviews and selling her story rights to Netflix for $320,000. The series Inventing Anna made her more famous, but after her 2021 release, ICE immediately detained her for immigration violations. Currently under house arrest, wearing an electronic bracelet and awaiting deportation, She continues monetizing her notoriety through social media and podcasts, proving that in the modern age, even criminal infamy can be transformed into celebrity. Currency. 15. Lori Loughlin. Full House's family values fraud. Lori Loughlin was America's sweetheart, beloved for her role as Rebecca Katsopoulos on Full House and its Netflix revival, Fuller House. Her wholesome image and seemingly perfect family life made her a role model for millions of viewers. However, the 2019 Varsity Blues College admission scandal revealed a shocking truth behind her pristine facade. Loughlin and her fashion designer husband, Massimo Giannulli, paid $500,000 in bribes to get their two daughters into USC as fake rowing recruits, despite neither having ever participated in the sport. Unlike Felicity Huffman, who quickly admitted guilt, Loughlin maintained her innocence and fought the charges for over a year. This decision backfired spectacularly when she was ultimately sentenced to 2 months in federal prison, while Huffman received only 14 days. During her incarceration at Dublin Federal Prison, Loughlin lost everything she had built over 3 decades in Hollywood. Netflix fired her from Fuller House, Hallmark Channel severed all ties despite her being one of their biggest stars, and her daughters faced public humiliation and were forced to leave USC. The woman who once embodied family values became a symbol of parental desperation and entitlement. After her release, Loughlin found Hollywood doors firmly closed, with no major network or streaming service willing to risk association with her tainted image. 16. Bill Cosby, America's dad's shocking fall. Bill Cosby was more than just an entertainer, he was a cultural institution. The Cosby Show broke ground as the first successful sitcom featuring an upper-middle-class black family, running for 8 seasons and earning Cosby the nickname America's Dad. His comedy albums, educational advocacy, and philanthropic work made him one of the most respected figures in entertainment. However, in 2018, Cosby was convicted of aggravated indecent assault and sentenced to 3 to 10 years in state prison. The conviction came after decades of allegations from over 60 women who accused him of drugging and sexually assaulting them. His fall was particularly shocking because of the stark contrast between his public persona as a moral authority and the private reality of his predatory behavior. During his nearly 3 years at SSCI Phoenix in Pennsylvania, Cosby lost his honorary degrees, his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame was vandalized, and reruns of The Cosby Show were pulled from syndication. Though his conviction was overturned on a technicality in 2021, the damage to his reputation was irreversible. The man who once lectured others about morality and personal responsibility became a symbol of hypocrisy and abuse of power.